Hi, I'm Tim, welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we are discussing an independent brand that makes its own movements and does so in relative obscurity. We should talk more about the folks from Hautlence because they make beautiful and imaginative watches. The brand was founded back in 2004 and creating a series of unconventional TV-shaped retrograde jump hour watches, they proceeded in 2009 to launch their second in-house caliber, the HLQ, which was designed for their first round watch series, and that's exactly what we have here today. The folks from Neuchâtel, after all, Hautlence is an anagram for Neuchâtel, rendering 44 millimeters in titanium on my wrist, the HLQ07. 88 pieces. The timepiece is easy to wear because it's almost lugless. You can see the stub lugs, which project only 49.4 millimeters from lug to lug, making this watch surprisingly viable on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. Neither is it a thick watch, only 11.3 millimeters thick. It's thinner than a Rolex Daytona. The spacing of the lugs is quite broad at 22 millimeters. You'll find that the watch sits broad, sits secure, and sits contemporary on the wrist, as you don't feel as though the case chokes down to a narrow strap. Everything's well proportioned. The strap is a high-grade piece, as you can see. Unusual to see medium rectangular scale alligator leather, but a handsome semi-gloss, nicely bolstered. You can see there's a folded edge with a monotone stitch, and a curved spring bar is used so that the strap on both sides has full articulation without coming in contact with the case. Now the watch uses an elaborate pin buckle featuring, of course, titanium construction, the Hautlence logo, as well as inlaid screws in the company's distinctive style. You'll find the same screws throughout the watch, and of course a wonderfully made piece, anything but a default design. Look how they even inlaid their distinctive screw in profile while adding a handsome bevel on the flank, both angular and contrasting in satin and polish. A great deal of attention is paid to small elements of the design, starting with the buckle and continuing on the case flank, which features elaborate screw-fixed and stepped-out lug profiles. Satin finish throughout with a few polished highlights. You can see there is a press button date adjuster that sits at what would conventionally be 12 o'clock, and when you turn the watch over to the crown side, you can see the Hautlence logo on a high polished crown with a sharp, easily gripped knurling. The bezel is shallow and mildly conical, and when you get to the dial side, you can see that the dial has great depth, as you can stare through the superstructure or the lattice work of metal that sits atop the dial right down into the mechanism, featuring the swing arm and the inertia weight that allows the retrograde system to jump instantaneously and also pull the jump hour with it in the process. Now there's a lot going on here. You can see those signature Hautlence bolts are used to fix this sort of frame or lattice work to the dial itself. There's an array of colors starting with a soft, almost cream base, the gray metallic of the metal features of the superstructure, and then a few blue accents that are well chosen. There's a sapphire constant seconds disc down at what would conventionally be about 530. You can see that there is a scale which is suspended above the dial with part of the scale printed and part of the scale skeletonized into the lattice work, and then you have blue indices for the seconds as well as the date. Now the nice thing about the date is it does have that pusher adjuster up at the top of the dial, so you can rapidly cycle it to suit your needs. The watch features both a retrograde and a jump hour, and happily you can see the mechanisms for each right through the dial. So let's talk a little bit about how this works. Once you start manually adjusting things, you can see the connecting rod of the retrograde is linked to the jump hour mechanism, and precisely on the turn of the hour jumps. So you'll note that the jump hour is actually a traveling aperture over a lattice work that contains all of the hours suspended above the cream-colored dial base. This is an elaborate and beautiful system that makes a wonderful audible snap. It's an exciting and dynamic way to display time, and in a round case, a bit more palatable to traditionalists willing to take a chance than the original TV-shaped Hautlence HLs. You'll also appreciate the case back features the most traditional of finishing. There's an individual number plate out of the series of 88. This is the caliber HLQ. It is circular. It was the second fully in-house caliber by Hautlence, and their first circular caliber. 32 joules manual wind, 21.6 beat rate, 40-hour power reserve, retrograde with a date, constant seconds, and a jump hour. Note how beautifully hand-finished the movement is, with a spiral graining on the crown wheel and the ratchet wheel, linear satin graining perfectly aligned across the bridges, all screw heads black polished, and if you look carefully, and I'll try to get it, you can see the gleam on the edges of the bridge. This is true hand-finished mirrored chamfer, the same as you would see on, for example, a Laurent Ferrier or a Vacheron. The finish is impeccable on this watch. These were priced aggressively. They sold slowly, and I'll be honest, but that's why they're one of the best pre-owned buys. You're getting an enormous amount of high horology engineering, finish, and manufacture watchmaking from an exciting independent for a very reasonable price. If you can forego the Richard Mille fever, you can see the merit in a small, sincere, and highly invested watchmaker like Hautlence. You can see this HLQ07 and make it yours on the watch box. And we're back with the Hautlence HLQ07 by night. You can see the retrograde and the jump hour.